how I made my first $100,000 on YouTube with fewer than 100 subscribers. And you could do the same if you would like. Now, the channel I'm referring to is not this channel here. It is my other YouTube channel, which currently has over 430,000 subscribers. I started that channel back in 2013. And before I continue with the story, I want to mention that I did announce that I will be releasing my book on April 25th on entrepreneurship, built on the foundation of 16 years of entrepreneurship and building 3 successful businesses, one with IT, one on my YouTube channel, with my YouTube channel, and another is a consulting practice. If you're interested in getting more details when I release the book and be notified of the book release, and also if you would like a download of this mind map here, Xmind and or PDF format, you can go to the description and join my mailing list, and then I'll send it over to you. So, as mentioned, what I'm referring to here is my other YouTube channel. I started it in 2013. So now I'm going to share the story of how this $100,000 was made within the first year with under 100 subscribers. And then we're going to talk about how you could do the same as well. So in 2009, I started an IT business. Prior to that, I did 10 years in corporate IT. And I built that business to success. Yet in 2013, I felt inspired to go into consulting. And by that, I mean business consulting. Consulting on innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership based on my personal experience of building my first business to success. I wanted to build a consulting business. Now, I also wanted to do things more remotely. A lot of my clients were based out of Toronto, and there was, as part of my IT business back then, a lot of traveling onto client sites and performing the service on site for the clients, which was actually a lot of fun. Yet at a particular point, I felt that I wanted to be more remote. I wanted to run my business ideally 100% remote. And so I thought, well, I have this experience now of building this business to success, and I genuinely love consulting. I genuinely love coaching. I genuinely love training and facilitation. By the way, we made a video last week, and if you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to it, where we talk about how I have combined these areas to create different offers that have generated millions of dollars as a result of combining coaching, consulting, training, and facilitation, tapping into all these industries. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link in the description to it. I recommend checking it out. So I felt inspired to move into consulting and consult on innovation sales, marketing, operations, and finance. That's how I break down my business consulting or entrepreneurship training and facilitation. If you're a student in my entrepreneurial program, then you know that I break down entrepreneurship in those categories. So what ended up happening was I also said, well, let's buy a one-way ticket. My ex-girlfriend at the time, she was from Austria, and I said, I'm going to buy a one-way ticket. We were staying in an Airbnb because I got rid of everything, pretty much everything. And then the rest I fit into a backpack, and we stayed in an Airbnb for a bit, and then I bought the one-way ticket to Austria. And on the way, as we were leaving the Airbnb, an idea flashed, which was make a video. And that was my first video on my YouTube channel, 2013, my other YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to the channel and the videos referenced in this video here. So what ended up happening was she recorded the video. I'm talking about what's in my backpack, and it was something like traveling while running a business. Here's what's in my backpack, traveling light, etc. So that video started to gain some traction, started to get a bit popular. And actually, when I landed in Austria, I said, wow, I started a YouTube channel right now. Maybe that could be something that I might explore. Talking about experiences of traveling and running a business. That was an idea that I had. Yet, as mentioned, I was interested in moving into consulting, business consulting. Now, while I was in Austria, in the mornings, I would run, and I love running. And they have wonderful slopes that you could run up, so it's quite a cardio workout. And while I was running, I was listening to podcasts. I love listening to podcasts. For example, there was one I used to listen to called the I Love Marketing podcast. The other one was Entrepreneur on Fire. There was a number of podcasts that I would listen to, and I Love Marketing podcast was a very helpful podcast for me while I was building my IT business. Because while I was traveling in the subways in Toronto, going over to client sites, while I was driving, I would listen to marketing podcasts like I Love Marketing, and I would learn a lot of things about sales, about marketing, about business. And some of these things, when I applied in my way, were very helpful, such as referrals. I talk a lot about referrals and the power of building a business with referrals, which has generated me a considerable amount of revenue, applying referrals to my business. So what ended up happening was I got this idea of what if I made videos, quick videos, maybe it'd be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, talking about 5 insights from these podcasts. Because I have taken this information from these podcasts and I have applied it and I found it to be very helpful. And what if I shared it? Would that be beneficial for those that would be interested in knowing about my experiences, etc.? So we can have that conversation on YouTube. And so I made my first video on that particular topic. I didn't do any more. I think I may have done a few. I might have deleted 5 insights from a podcast, I called it. But that was one. And I right away got the insight. Just like how I got the insight, intuition to make that first video and put it out there. Intuition then arose again to make this video called 5 Insights from the Podcast. So I was listening to one episode of I Love Marketing, and there was a guest on the show. His name is Jeff Moore. And there was a lot of insightful things shared on that podcast. So I made one of those videos, 5 Insights from a Podcast, and that was one of my earlier videos on my YouTube channel. And so what happened was I posted that video, and then I ended up making another video about explaining what's in my backpack, why I chose to make those life decisions, etc. Because I thought, as mentioned, that I would expand upon that, and perhaps that could turn into something. That's one of the benefits of entrepreneurship, is you get to try out a bunch of things and see what you'd like. If you like it, you can continue to grow it and scale it. If it picks up traction, it acquires clients, you can continue to grow and scale it. If it acquires clients, but you don't like doing it, you could stop doing it. So generally, I like to have a number of initiatives that are generating steady revenue, and then also have a few exploratory initiatives and see if I like doing, and maybe it could turn into something. And so that was the case with my YouTube channel. Now, what ended up happening was I had this idea then. What if I find Jeff on Facebook? I was on Facebook. I had a personal profile. Right now, I don't have a personal profile. I deleted it a number of years ago. I have a business fan page on Facebook. But at that time, I had a personal profile, and I did find him on Facebook. And at that time, I don't know if it's like that now, but you can tag people, and it would show up on their feed. So I tagged them in a post where I posted the video discussing the 5 insights from I Love Marketing, the podcast, where he was a guest on there. And he shared it then with his mastermind. He commented on it. And then what ended up happening is we ended up connecting. We ended up sending messages to each other. And then a short while after, I felt like going to Mexico for a week or two or something like that. And so I bought a ticket to go to Mexico. And while I was in Mexico, we actually connected. We were connecting all throughout the time. And he was really interested in this lifestyle that I was having. living out of a backpack, running the business, etc. We had a lot of commonality, a lot of relatability. We both love marketing. We both love direct response marketing, copywriting, consultative selling. We studied the same people like Jay Abraham, for example. And we got along wonderfully. And he said to me that perhaps there are things that I could do for his business, the seafood business, a number of businesses that he was involved with. And he also had a mastermind. So he ended up paying for my ticket to fly and take care of my accommodations in California. That was my first time going to California. This was again in 2013. And he ended up giving me some consulting deals, including an arrangement where he would pay me bi-weekly to do some things remotely for him and his businesses, as well as he introduced me to his mastermind group. I spoke at the mastermind group that he runs. I acquired clients for coaching, consulting. They referred business to me. And long story short, what ended up happening was within that year, without even reaching 100 subscribers yet, and then the channel started to grow, I was already making $100,000 from the genesis, really, the earlier stages of the YouTube channel. Now, why I'm sharing this is because one doesn't necessarily only need to, we could say, generate revenues from AdSense or creating courses or some of the more common things that we see YouTubers do. You can think outside of the box. You can think more creatively. And if you do and understand that foundationally what's happening is relationships are being formed in a way that is mutually beneficial, and because they have a wonderful time working with you and you deliver an exceptional product and or service, they gladly refer business to you. And through connecting with people and doing it in a very intuitive way, this wasn't force-based, it wasn't stress-based. We're having a lot of fun. Till this day, we are friends. And I am friends with many of the people that he introduced me to over the years. This relationship was going on throughout the years, and it generated way more than that first $100,000 in the first year. So you see how easy, you see how fast, and how natural it is to do this. So let's explore. I broke it down here in the mind map as to the components that make up the whole of that successful story. So let's explore in a way that you can apply it. So number one is naturally inspired steps in flow. So you could see I was in flow. I was in flow on my way to Austria, and then quickly had an idea emerge to make a video, which I did. I didn't hesitate. I didn't doubt it. It was natural. It was intuitive. I moved forward with it, and that kicked off the YouTube channel. And as mentioned, that's the YouTube channel that has now over 430,000 subscribers. I've had it since 2013. And so intuitively, I took the step. So what's helpful then is to listen to inner guidance during life's pivotal points. What I mean by that, perhaps during major transitions. I was transitioning from my IT business, such as, for example, leaving a job, career, changing your business, relationships. There may be a tendency for the individual to look outward for validation, for a safe path, a path that we could say is conventional. They may think, okay, well, now that this is happening, there's this transitioning happening, what are other people doing? And let's mimic them. Now, that's one way of doing it. What I did was I went with it. What happened was intuitively this idea emerged. And although there were channels talking about minimalism, there wasn't any channels at that time talking about it in a way that I was articulating. But it naturally arose, so I didn't hesitate. I made the video. And why this matters is inner guidance or intuition, I find, is generally faster than logic. See, your mind can try to calculate outcomes, forecast risks, which is helpful, by the way. I love spreadsheets, as you know. I have also a deep appreciation for logic and spreadsheets and calculations. Yet there are times where intuition takes care of all of that. In other words, you can connect the dots looking backwards and say, oh, that was a wonderful move. Such as the story I shared with you. We could look back at it now, connecting the dots looking backwards, as Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech, and say, that was a wonderful move. Yet it was an intuitive move. We could say it didn't make any sense to do something like that. And maybe upon some analysis, you might say, well, it makes sense and so forth. But how that sequence of events happened was so masterfully articulated that it went beyond convention, and it was intuition. While I was in the flow, I remain in the flow. It is intuition that is guiding me along the way. And I find that to be a lot faster. What I find is that the logic is supportive of the intuition. They are actually in harmony together. So it also releases analysis paralysis, overthinking. In times of change, no matter what kind of change, if something is changing in appearance in a person's life, there may be overthinking or trying to think our way out of the situation in a way that's just generating confusion in mind. Overthinking in a way that's frustrating. And at times, that may cloud out, as Steve Jobs had mentioned in his commencement speech, which I used to listen to over and over again when I was building my IT business. It may seem to drown out your inner voice. Meanwhile, your inner voice is providing clear insight. It may drown it out. It's still there, so we quiet the mind. How do you quiet the mind? I take the step. That's how I do it. It's a simple thing to do. I take the step without judgment, without hesitation. I do it without any attachment to outcome. It's not like I said, this video needs to be successful. It needs to go viral. I'm talking about that first video, the living out of the backpack video and running the business video. I take the step because I intuitively feel inspired to take the step. Because without the bias, what happens is the next step appears, such is the case with this example. It also honors your authentic path. As I always say, your way is the best way. It doesn't mean that my way is better than your way, and your way is better than my way, and this other person's way is better than your way, etc. It means there's only the way. There's only the way, which is the authentic way. Confusion, hesitation, etc. are the result of not listening to intuition. Now, this is another helpful insight. Through building my IT business to success, I realized even more so the importance to listening to intuition, because I built my IT business to success in a very intuitive way. And although, as mentioned, I would consider marketing information, sales information, operations information, leadership information, innovation information, finance information from the various books, videos, training programs, I would consider it. Yet ultimately, I went with what felt natural and authentic for me, my authentic way in those areas, and built my entrepreneurial program on that foundation, and my coaching and my consulting on that foundation. It is not to say then you must do it the way that I did it in the programs. Even in the programs, I mentioned that here are some ways. These may be very unconventional, yet these are ways. But what does it point to? As mentioned earlier, relationships. Listening to intuition is what we're talking about here. That is one of the things that I find that I continue to encourage entrepreneurs to listen to. Everyone to listen to, actually. Intuition. Your way is the best way. So intuition may provide the first step, a series of steps, a number of steps, not to throw a bias into the mix. Yet I listen exclusively to intuition. So I took these steps from intuition while in the flow, and the results happen. Also, something to consider, to dissolve some of that mental chatter that I was talking about that may seem to cloud out intuition, drown out your own inner voice, as Steve Jobs mentioned. Consider this. Done is better than perfect when entering a new phase. And actually, all throughout. And what I mean by that is you can continue to refine your product, your service, your YouTube channel, your communication skills, your sales skills. You can continue to refine and refine and refine. We could say it never ends. There is no limit to the degree that you can refine. And that's perfect. I value the nuances on the journey of refinement. I've been refining since 2009 now. 16 years in entrepreneurship and a continuous refinement. And not in a force-based way. It's not like I'm trying to refine more and more and more to get to a destination. Success happens along the way. You hit this number goal, then that number goal, net worth goal, business success goal. It happens. I don't force. I don't stress. I recommend not doing so. It's not needed. I take the step. For example, I snowboard. And I'm far better of a snowboarder now. I've been snowboarding for a while, since winter of 2020. So over the course of the years, my performance has increased. I'm faster, smoother, etc. Yet, I'm not trying to be perfect. What happens is I enjoy the experience day to day, the repetitions. For example, if I stay up north, I snowboard in the morning, I snowboard in the evening, repetition. Not trying to be perfect, but done is how I like to see every run. So what happens is I go down the slopes, I enjoy the experience, I refine. Sometimes I'm conscious as to what to refine, and sometimes body naturally refines on its own. Now all of a sudden, it's a lot smoother. Repetition, not seeking perfection. Consider this for a moment. You are perfect as you are now. The fact that you exist is perfection. So you don't need to seek for perfection. You just manifest your perfection, we could say, as your content, as your business, etc. That's the way I like to see it. So I release identification to perfectionism. It's not needed. The individual thinks they're never good enough when they put out content, etc. And that may generate resistance to putting out the first video, taking the step. Because let's say if I was looking for the perfect message to put in my Facebook post to tag Jeff in, I feel that it wouldn't be natural and authentic, which is the best way. As mentioned, your way is the best way. And why this is helpful, momentum. Consider that momentum was built with my YouTube channel. Momentum was built to the point where I created the 5 programs, my mastermind service. All these things happened over the course of, since 2013, building my YouTube channel. So many memories, so many life experiences, successes in business, revenue streams, partnerships, etc. This YouTube channel as well. Momentum, step by step by step. I take the steps, ideally in a state of flow, step by step, intuition. The next step reveals itself. The next step reveals itself. The next plan reveals itself. And there are times where I could see the plans, quite, let's say, from an elevated perspective, and I can see quite far the steps. And there are times where I don't even know what the second step is. But that's okay. Totally fine. I don't consider one way better than another. So I remain in the flow, and momentum takes over. Then you get this next idea for this next video and so forth. My other YouTube channel, it eventually went from once in a while making videos to I commit to making 1 video a week, and then 2 videos a week, and then 3 videos a week, and then I flow as I make the videos. As I make these videos, for example, I flow. I trust I say the thing that is beneficial and helpful. I allow the words to flow from experience. So essentially now with the other YouTube channel, I'm doing 2 videos a week because I'm doing the 3rd one here on this channel. Yet I'm still doing 3 videos a week. That may continue for a while. I may pivot in a different direction. Yet the momentum will not be lost, because whatever direction I pivot in, some way, somehow, it contributes to the entrepreneurial success, the next level, whatever I define it to be. Because again, I'm not looking for perfectionism. I'm choosing to live a wonderful life, have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit, and continue to progress in physical form, as I am perfect now, as you are perfect now, more and more so each moment, each day, etc. And have a lot of fun. And you could do the same as well. So, another thing to consider is what I found with YouTube is the audience genuinely loves authenticity, your style, and they don't necessarily want the videos to be polished. As a matter of fact, for many years, I've grown my YouTube channel. It was only last year when I started making videos of me on camera on my YouTube video. And I did a few in the earlier stages, including the living out of the backpack one. But most of the videos were made on mind maps. It was just my voice. And I did it for years. And it wasn't like anything anyone else was doing on YouTube. And you know what? Many people, not only we could say, did not care that I was not on camera and didn't have a polished set and all this effects, etc. They genuinely liked my style. And that's fine, because let's just say if viewers were looking for a different kind of experience, there are other YouTube channels that provide those experiences, which is perfect. My YouTube channel provides this kind of experience, which is my style. So clarity, energy, relevance, those are of importance. And the living out of the backpack video was highly relevant. It was very relatable to people that were doing it, and also people that were interested in doing something like that, interested in starting a business where they can travel remotely and run it. And then even the 5 insights from the podcast, it was relatable. Why? Because I'm sharing my insights and perspectives, my views of how I relate to the information, how I've been applying it, and my personal experience. Same with the book discussions that I did over the years with the mind maps. And speaking of which, I ended up taking 50 of them down, something like that, because they were getting flagged for copyright, even though they weren't violating copyright. But I just took like 50 of them down. But on my other channel, there was a point where there's 50 book discussions on business books, personal development books were there. And I was having a lot of fun making it. It was my style. So naturally inspired steps in flow. Now, what we're discussing in this video is there's no gimmicks here. Creating a business is a matter of, ideally, I recommend it, doing what you love to do in a way that benefits people. And they give you wonderful compensation for the product and or service, or if you're making videos and your channel is monetized and that's your primary source, it is essentially fair value exchange. If you do what you love to do, what you genuinely enjoy doing, it doesn't feel like work. This does not feel like work for me. This is the kind of conversation that I would have with a friend anyways. That's also why I chose to make the YouTube channel, because then I feel that I have a space where I could talk about the things that I genuinely love to talk about. And there were times in my life where it didn't feel like there were people that wanted to hear what I had to say. Now, the interesting thing is, now I'm surrounded, as mentioned, 400 and something thousand subscribers. I've done a number of events, group sessions, one-on-ones. There's so much relatability. And people genuinely desire to have this conversation here. So naturally inspired from a state of flow, doing what I love to do, and that was in my IT business, consulting practice, YouTube, etc. That is how I generated $100,000 on YouTube with fewer than 100 subscribers. We could say what you love to do is contagious. And there are people that are attracted to you. And as you put yourself out there sharing your style, it may or may not pick up traction in large volumes as far as subscribers and view count in the earlier stages. And that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. You may get one deal, which could result in all kinds of deals, or even one deal that can be enough to build a very successful business off that one deal. I remember one of my friends back in the days, we would go out to nightclubs and he would bring one of his friends and he drove a Z4 BMW. He had his own condo and we were in our early 20s. And I said, what does he do? And he said his dad and him run a tool and die business. They have a property, and then behind their property, they have a workshop built. And they have one client they provide services for. And they've had this client for so many years. One client. And it's not to say you should have one client. But generally, we see that there's so much opportunity with each relationship, with each client, that one doesn't need a lot of subscribers or a lot of viewers. If you truly value relationships, what happens is you'll communicate in a way, and then when you reach out and connect with people, it will be in a way that is so relatable that they literally open up the doors for you to work together in a mutually beneficial way. And that's when you can offer the coaching, the consulting, the packages. That's when you can do the partnership deals. That's when you can combine the assets, the relationships to grow the business on the revenue enhancing side. For example, generating qualified visitors, generating qualified leads, acquiring clients, and engaging in ongoing business with existing clients. Through the relationships and the acres of diamonds, as I like to call it, the assets, the relationships, the opportunities that exist within the scope of those few relationships. So, number 2, purposeful, value-driven content. Content as a reflection of curiosity. Let's see what happens. This is something I'm genuinely interested in talking about. I'm genuinely interested in talking about what it's like living out of a backpack while running a business, although I was kicking it off with that video. I genuinely would like to discuss about my insights and perspectives in relation to books, in relation to what I've been applying, in relation to podcasts. And over the course of the years, through my YouTube discussions, it was genuine curiosity. For example, one of my most popular videos is my over 3-hour, 2.5 or 3-hour long discussion I did on Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, which I read in 2004, and it transformed my life. That book right there, I made a video, lengthy discussion, 3 hours long, is one of the most popular videos on my channel. I believe it's the most popular, few million views or something like that. Just out of curiosity, how did I know that video was going to pick up traction? It did. So I like creating content as a reflection of my curiosity, what inspires me. It creates energy. When you're curious, you're energized, and that energy is magnetic to people. Viewers and clients feel that authenticity and they can relate with you. It removes all the pressure as well. You genuinely like to talk about what you genuinely like to talk about, and I personally do not talk about anything that I don't have interest to talk about, whether it's good for the algorithm or this and that. If something is good for the algorithm and also it's something I'm genuinely interested in, okay, we could do that. But if I have to talk about something, do something, create a business, make a video, do things in a way that feels force and stress-based, I don't do it. And from personal experience, I found that, let's say, if I did force myself to do things, which I've done that in my entrepreneurial journey. That's why now I teach the flow-based way. When I did those things, it resulted in stress and frustration. And a lot of times those initiatives didn't work out. And if they did, they were starting to bring in revenues. I dreaded doing those things, so I stopped it. I didn't find it to be sustainable for quality of life and well-being. It also attracts the people that you genuinely desire to work with, that feel so relatable. To the point, for example, with flow-based prosperity, the meetups that I've done, our conversations flow unconditionally. There's no shaming and condemning. There's no filters, because we could say it feels very childlike, like kids on a playground, because there's so much relatability. As we share our authentic curiosities, what happens is we attract those that enjoy our style. As I say, your style is the best style. Now, also with this purposeful, value-driven content, when I created it, which was intuitively inspired, a reflection of my curiosity, I also acknowledge from my IT business the importance of tapping into existing ecosystems. So I knew that this was someone that knows people that I like, I study, and also has business partnerships, has a mastermind, etc. And I can work with him and everyone that he refers to me in a way that I can enhance what they're doing, provide the value in a mutually beneficial way. So with the opportunities that he had, the opportunities that I have, the access, the reach that he has, that I have, we can combine together in a way that's mutually beneficial. As mentioned earlier, assets, relationships, and opportunities. Assets can be physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, different kinds of relationships, vendors, clients, mastermind partners, wholesalers, lenders. When you have access to different kinds of relationships, you can combine them in creative ways to grow your business rapidly. And that is how I was able to get to $100,000 in a short period of time, by creative thinking. Now, anyone can do this, because it's not like I was trying to figure this out. It intuitively happened. As I mentioned, we're connecting the dots looking backwards here. So this is not meant to suggest you need to, must do, have to do these things that I'm talking about. This is an exploratory, stimulating conversation. Whatever feels inspiring for you, if anything is stimulated from this that speaks to the heart, that's perhaps what you consider doing. Genuinely and authentically, that's the thing that I do. Naturally, effortlessly, and it works out. So tapping into existing ecosystems, you don't need to build everything from scratch. People are there to collaborate with you, support you, mastermind with you, offer their services, barter, exchange, etc. Provide you clients, opportunities to speak, etc. It amplifies thus your reach, and also what happens with the tagging someone, let's say, that idea just popped up, is people love acknowledgments of their expertise, their wisdom, their greatness. So they love being recognized, we could say, or acknowledged for their contributions, for what they have done, their expertise. Consider, he got together with someone and he ended up making a podcast to benefit everyone greatly. He genuinely shared his knowledge, expertise, wisdom, reference, experience from his heart to benefit everyone greatly. When someone watches a video like that or podcast of an individual sharing from their heart and acknowledges, recognizes them, even makes a video about it, expands upon that, they feel appreciated. And a relationship is formed. A relationship starts. So purposeful, value-driven content that is mutually beneficial, and then you may share it. So again, this could be looked at as a strategy. You could say, okay, create some content and then connect with the person that inspired the content, use that as a way of getting under their radar. I didn't think of it that way. We can reverse engineer it and say it's that way. This happens naturally. But I would like you to go beyond that and see what's going on. Essentially, all of this is a natural manifestation of valuing harmonious relationships, sharing what authentically inspires you, taking the steps that are inspired from a state of flow, remaining in your flow, and then as it cultivates the relationships, you continue to thrive and they benefit greatly. It's mutually harmonious. This is not transactional. This is relationship cultivation. As mentioned, we've been friends for many years, going back since 2013. There were times where we would talk every week. I stayed at his place. I've gone to California a number of times. And I've stayed at his place actually a number of times. We have gone out for dinner. Remember, we had a beautiful walk with his wife at Balboa Island. We went to a restaurant. We have so many stories, mutual friends, wonderful life experiences. We watched the Super Bowl together at one point. These kinds of experiences are priceless. And that's part of the business relationships. That's why I don't see it as transactional. Even, for example, as I mentioned in the previous video, and if you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to it. The case study videos that I did with Ruben Brooks, Danielle Lynn, and Ed are case study videos of them working with me, them also sharing their knowledge, wisdom, and expertise, and we're also real-time hanging out and having fun. This is the kinds of things that happen behind the scenes, and these are the kinds of things that when the clients, the prospects see that they can have those kinds of experiences, they bring you on as a coach, a consultant, a service provider, because it's not just about the money. And interestingly then, paradoxically, the money increases, and quite rapidly, actually. And as mentioned, I learned these things while I was building my IT business and was able to implement it a lot easier, which at that point became natural, although it is the natural way of being. So I just released the conditions that was, let's say, generating the illusions, making it seem unnatural to be natural. And then the business grew rapidly. So I'm sharing with you personal experience, wisdom, reference experience. I'm sharing with you what had happened. And as mentioned, you don't have to copy this. Do it your way. But essentially what's going on, if we strip away all the marketing lingo and etc., business lingo, is relationship building in a way that's mutually beneficial. Acknowledging that you have value to share and sharing it. And then allowing yourself to creatively express. May come off in a video tagging someone, etc. And without the doing all these things that are not related to what is actually facilitating the deals. And thus, it's obvious then that the numbers would increase faster. Now, I learned this, as mentioned, and I'm sharing this with you so that you could have a more accelerated, let's say, or you can get results easier, faster, by considering what I mentioned here, which again is built on personal experience. And you could do the same as well. And how do I know? Because I've taught this to many entrepreneurs over the years, and they too have done their version of this and have succeeded tremendously, or have incorporated what we're talking about here in their business, some shape or form, and added more revenue, more numbers to the bottom line, let's say, or enhanced the revenue stream that was already generating revenue. Number 3, intentional outreach without selling. So I take out the transactional, the forcing, the manipulating, the needing to control, the force-based sales. I don't do it. As mentioned, I love to have a wonderful time. And this is about relationships. Think about the relationships you've had with friends growing up on a playground, for example. You get together, you hang out, maybe later on you say, well, come over to my house for dinner, you hang out, you become best friends. Flow-based, like that, natural, authentic. No agenda. Although, let's say, there's still business happening. There's still business happening in the background. It is still intentional, yet it is not force, stress, manipulative, strong-arming. It is very childlike. You see, that's the flow-based way. That's the kind of entrepreneurship that I teach, the flow-based way. Because you look at this, you say, well, that's an interesting strategy. I could turn this into a strategy. Yet it's also sincere, we could say. So we could say a supportive framework, yet it's very natural. Because it is incorporating and factoring the best practices of direct response marketing, consultative selling, and copywriting. And if you would like to know more of that, I recommend my entrepreneurial program, which I'll link to in the description. Yet it's so natural. Well, guess what? All that stuff, direct response marketing, consultative selling, copywriting, what it's pointing to, when not done in a manipulative way, not done in a force-based way, is the natural order of things. So when we go about, then we could say copywriting, consultative selling, direct response marketing in a very natural, authentic, harmonious, relationship building way, non-pushy, everything flows to be in harmony. I trust you'll see it. And if you have been seeing it, I trust that this video here encourages you to be more of this way, which is your natural way. So there's a fine line then from trying to get attention and sharing from alignment. So it was a natural, very natural step. It was a genuine desire to do these steps. Take the step, I took the step. And then afterwards, connecting the dots, looking backwards, I could say, oh, okay, this was the step to take. I'm glad I took the step. And also, it's a great experience for him because he's told that story many times. He shared it with people whenever we hang out with mutual friends. He'll bring up the story and the nuances to the story that were a lot of fun as well that I didn't include in this video. Otherwise, this video would go on for another few hours. We had so much fun. So content can be seen by those that facilitate decisions, buying decisions, can refer business to you, can connect you to relationships, assets, opportunities. And if you bring it to their attention in a way that involves them, then that can be profoundly mutually beneficial. It cuts through the noise, it initiates the relationship in a flow-based way, and it builds trust immediately and rapidly. And as we go through this, consider your style if you feel inspired by this. You might not do it this way. You may or may not. Your style is the best style. So you don't need to have a massive audience. You don't need to have millions of views, hundreds of thousands of subscribers in order to have a wonderful business. What we're interested in is, again, to the extreme point as brought up earlier. My friend, his friend had that business with his dad, and they had one client that would provide all kinds of business to them. We're interested in the right audience or the natural match or the audience that we could say, ideally, I recommend this. Those that can become clients, those that can refer business to you, those that can open up opportunities for you in innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership. Those opportunities can be opportunities to automate, delegate, eliminate, optimize in some shape or form, in part or in whole or in combination. They may have access to physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, relationships, venues, networks. And again, in a very sincere, natural, flow-based way. Because what I have found in my many years of business dealing is everyone wants to have a wonderful time while they're doing business. No one has ever said to me that I'm going to do it in a forced stress-based way. If anyone has said to me that they thought it was the only way, after having a brief conversation with them and sharing my personal experiences and talking about the flow-based way, they start to be open to the flow-based way. And then when they do things in the flow-based way, which is the natural way, not only do they get those results, the results actually increase. They have more joy, bliss, happiness, peace, love-based experiences in their life, and creativity is increased, etc. So we can say then, although money is being transacted, it is not about the transaction. It's about the harmonious relationship and the fun, joy, bliss, playfulness, and childlikeness. That's what I found. So opportunities often come to people, we could say not posts, but people, because of who they are, what they represent, and the genuine desire for people to connect with those that put out that content from authenticity. That message has exponential returns. Those videos that I posted many years ago, still people have been watching those videos and they'll say to me, you know what, I came across your video on this topic, on this book, etc., that you posted, I don't know, 5 years ago, 8 years ago. I would like to work with you. I get those kinds of messages now. So when I saw that this was happening, I didn't do this with every video, tag the author, etc. That what happened was it did start, let's say, initiate a big jump towards valuing social media more so. Prior to that, when I built my IT business, it was mostly on referrals. So I wasn't involved with acquiring clients through advertising or social media. Now, when I did come across information about social media, I didn't see it articulated the way that I'm articulating right now, which is more on valuing each view. Each view. So rather than saying, oh, I got 50,000 or 100,000 views, that's 50,000 or 100,000 real people. They're watching your content, they're engaging with it, they're building a relationship with you. And to me, 5 views is just as valuable as 100 views, 1,000 views, 10 million views, etc. Proves the point right here with less than 100 subscribers. By relating to your content and the people that view your content through intention like this, having this intention. It's not like I'm trying to get to 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 and comparing myself with other YouTubers, etc. By valuing each viewer, each subscriber, relationships are formed and the content is generated from the heart authentically. That's why, for example, when I would do, and we're doing it right now, the book discussions, there'd be 45 minutes, an hour long, and people would message me. They would say, thank you for doing the 4-hour work week and all these other books that you had did back then and doing hour-long discussions, 45-minute discussions. It feels like I'm having a conversation with a friend. And so what ends up happening then is the relationship is built. So we see just how much potential there is by considering that you don't need to reach everybody. You could be you perfectly as you are, share your message, and reach maybe a few individuals, maybe a lot. Doesn't matter. The business still grows in some shape or form. It can grow with a large audience, small audience. And again, I'm living proof of this. And not only am I living proof of this, I actually worked with a few clients and we discussed this and we applied it in their way. And without having large audiences, they too were able to make 100,000 the first year in YouTube. So now the offers, what generates the numbers? From content to consulting. And I like to group this. What generated that 100,000? It was a combination of consulting, coaching, training, facilitation, creating programs, partnerships, doing live events, Zoom sessions, one-on-one groups, a combination. To expand further upon this, I'll link to the video that we released last week about combining coaching, consulting, training, and facilitation, as well as creating offers, a few videos we've done recently on this channel. I'll link in the description. And by the way, as I had mentioned in the previous videos, if there's any question that you have that you would like me to further explore upon related to entrepreneurship, related to our discussions, you can ask it in the comment section, and I will include it, as I have done with the previous questions that have been asked on the previous videos, in an upcoming video. Attracting opportunities organically. So organic opportunity happens when there's resonance without force. So there's resonance when you genuinely desire to talk about something, and you talk about it, you share it, and then there's relatability with people. You share your stories, life experiences, etc., your perspectives and viewpoints. So what happens then is there's no chasing clients. It's personal magnetism, you could say. You are being magnetic, and you attract the clients. They show up. Without that resistance, which is generating interference, essentially you could say, without that resistance of force, stress, neediness, wanting, craving, which is generating this invisible barrier, let's say, of resistance, the resistance is dissolved. Because all I did was felt inspired to make these videos. And then from there, the inspirations to make the mind map videos, etc., whatever books that I chose over the course, I went by inspiration. And I'm glad I did, because even, for example, some of my least popular videos on my other YouTube channel actually resulted in client deals. Because I know, because they brought it up and they said that particular video. And then I said, wow, that's the least popular video, one of the least popular videos. Yet from my heart, I chose to make it because that's what I felt like talking about. That's what I was inspired to talk about. And if I didn't do it, would I have acquired that client in that way? Maybe I'd have acquired them in a different way. But I'm glad I made that video because it spoke to them. And even if it didn't speak to as many people as, like, for example, my Think and Grow Rich video or Power of the Subconscious Mind video, which are wonderful videos, which attracted a lot of clients, partnership deals, joint ventures, a whole bunch of opportunities. Even if that didn't happen and it didn't get a lot of views, that's totally fine. Because one person out of, I don't know how many views, watched that video. They had a deep connection and relatability on that video. They reached out to me and we created a custom package for that individual. And that contributed to revenue. So it arises organically. You release the resistance. It feels effortless. And also the momentum is mentioned. Consider as I'm talking about this, that momentum is built on the previous steps, step by step, the compound effect. Doing what you love to do, talking what you love to talk about, people can feel it. They share that experience with you. You know, they're sitting there, maybe at home, they're driving in a car or something like that, and they're having a conversation with you. They're relating with you. So what happens then is when you speak from the heart about what you're genuinely interested in, people resonate. And if you offer something, you say, you know, I do this, I do that, if anyone's interested. From that foundation of authenticity, it is so exciting to see how many people reach out to you. And again, I'm not looking for lots of people to reach out to me. We're looking for the harmonious match. So this can add up then as you start to add more content. But as we consider this, even in the earlier stages, and then if you feel inspired, share the content with a few people. And there's some relatability in that content, or even you're working with that person and making content about your experience with them, or let's say you are discussing what they're discussing, author, business expert, chef, etc. You share it with them. That can result in exposure. And again, to say it very precisely, it doesn't matter if they acknowledge it, if they share it, if it turns into a business deal or not. I remove that condition. It is unconditional. If we do a deal together, great. If they don't do a deal with me, great. Why is that the case? Because that removes the resistance. And then I trust you'll see that they may come back and do the deal with you. Or they might not have gotten the message. And then I remember somebody reached out to me a while back and they asked me if I was interested in going on their YouTube channel. And I didn't actually see the first email that they sent. But they sent another one a handful of months later or something like that. And I said, yeah, let's do it. Went on their YouTube channel and actually resulted in generating a portion of the audience that I have on my YouTube channel, a portion of the subscribers. But I don't think that they were attached to, let's say, if I said no or yes, the outcome. It didn't seem like that. To me, it felt like they genuinely wanted to do it. And I did not see it. Totally fine. But if they shamed and condemned themselves, they stressed themselves out, that would just add more resistance. So that's what I mean. As we go about this, whatever you feel inspired from this, I like to do it in a flow-based way. Remove the conditions. The conditions don't need to be there. As the conditions are released, more organic content comes out, more authenticity comes out. So packaging and delivering value in consulting. Once the opportunities arise, you know your value and present it clearly. Now, to go deeper into this, I recommend a series of videos. We're not going to cover that in here. Today, we're speaking specifically about what happened when I made $100,000 plus that first year of having my YouTube channel, from my YouTube channel, prior to it having over 100 subscribers. And another reason why I'm putting this video out is because there may be people that think, you might think, that you need to have large numbers. You need to have a huge audience. You need to have a lot of views in order to be successful, have the kind of numbers. Release that bias. Maybe, consider this. If we filter reality through that condition, we only see the opportunities that are there through that condition. Meanwhile, there are all these other opportunities that are actually there. They're there right now. And the individual doesn't see it because they're filtering reality through this particular condition. So if this video helps release that condition, then we could say it was worth the 1 hour to explore it in this way. If it provided you some insights and perspectives that you can incorporate into your sales and marketing, your operations, your finance, your leadership, etc., and then I'm also happy. If it was a wonderful exploratory conversation, as mentioned, and we get to hang out and have this conversation, I'm also happy as well. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. If you're interested in a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. We'll talk soon. Take care.